Hi, I'm Marek from Zopro Software, and in today's video we will talk about ransomware. You can produce the best code, get thousands of users and millions of dollars. But in business, you must not forget one thing: security. Yes, we have to protect our data. Each of our applications, each device, and each repository may be attacked by hackers. Well, not even may, but sooner or later it will be. So the question is not if, but when. It is worth considering whether we are prepared for this. There are a lot of types of attacks, including popular DDoS, XSS, phishing, and more. This could even be an attack by regular email spam and waiting for the user to click on malicious link. There are also aspects of social engineering here. How do you get a user to install malware themselves? Especially if the hacker targets an attack on someone who is tech savvy. Either way, regardless of the source, the effect can be terrible. I would like to focus on what we call ransomware. This is malware that blocks access to data or entire system, usually encrypts it, and then demands a ransom to unblock that access. In 2019, Europol published a report listing ransomware as the most prominent threat in terms of prevalence and financial damage. According to 2017 Malwarebytes report, 35% of SMBs have been victims of ransomware attacks. 90% of infections ended up with over 1 hour long downtime. Interestingly, while the ransom demands weren't always large, the impact on the productivity made a significant drop in revenue. After such an attack, we measure our losses not in the amount of the ransom, but in the fact that our services are unavailable and our employees cannot work on their projects. By the way, the ransom is rarely actually paid, even if it's small. Consider the attack that took place in May of 2019. Ransomware has attacked hundreds of repositories on GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket. All source code disappeared from infected repositories, and instead there was only one file with information about the infection and the amount and method of paying a ransom. Many developers not only lost their code, but also had to spend time and money securing their current configuration and architecture. A double loss that was potentially avoidable by preparing for such an attack in advance. Hackers probably scanned the repositories for Git config files, pulled credentials from them, and then used them to access infected repositories. There is a quite happy ending to this story. Most of the data was finally recovered, after long hours or even days, and a lot of pain and tears. It was also a huge alarm signal saying, "Be careful, your repository might be next." So, how can we protect our repositories? First of all, don't keep your credentials public. On the one hand, this is so obvious, but as it turns out, not entirely. In 2018, an experiment was conducted to search GitHub for withdrawn commits that contained the words "removed password" in the message. Result: 350,000. And I can bet that at least twice as many just had different message content, but they did exactly the same. This is a huge number that shows the scale of this phenomenon. In addition to uncivilized public keeping of passwords, endpoints, API keys, and other sensitive data, it is also worth considering less obvious topics. As an example, let's take a hidden file .ds-store on macOS systems. It is a file that contains some metadata about the directory in which it is located. Why could this be a problem? Because making this directory public allows a potential hacker to obtain information that he should not have. Without going into details, I will use the results of the experiment done by the portal internetwatch.org. Among the 1 million most popular websites, according to Amazon, as many as 10,000 domains shared such a file. Of course, authentication was important here, or rather, the lack of it. It might not be a large scale, but it shows that potentially meaningless information in the hands of hackers can be very dangerous for us. Let's talk more about authentication in the context of our repositories. It is critical to use additional security features such as two-factor authentication. GitHub strongly insists on using this type of access, but also access by SSH. It tries to move away from the traditional login and password approach. But let's assume for a moment that we have such security in place, and still the hacker managed to, for example, steal a personal token and logged in correctly. How can we protect ourselves against that? By applying restricted access to the repository. By default, you should block access everywhere and only grant the necessary minimum. It is also worth making sure that such access is revoked if the employee changes the project or leaves the company. As for the passwords, I will only add the obviousness that they should be strong and above all not used anywhere else. You also have to be careful with your tokens. This is a good way to strengthen the protection, but if we by accident provide our token in the repository URL, for example when performing the git clone operation, such a token will be added to the local git config file. Coming back to the story about the May 2019 attack, such information in the configuration file can do us a lot of harm. Reflect on how theory compares to practice. We all do pull requests always before putting new code into our repositories, right? From a formal point of view, it is so, but it is important how the pull request will be carried out. This is a weak point because the human factor is decisive here, and that often fails when it comes to security. Consider a tool for static analysis of each pull request. There are several available on the market, or you can prepare your own if you want to. Anyway, it is worth equipping yourself with such a tool. So, how to do it on your own? Git enables Git hooks, which is a mechanism that runs specific scripts for a given event. For example, when adding a new commit, or on every push and pull operation. It may run whatever and whenever you need. In this way, we can protect our projects against committing solutions that contain passwords and other things that should not be public. Let's go back to the effects of ransomware attacks on our repositories. We've covered a number of ways to increase security, but none of them give us a 100% guarantee. The arms race on the subject of security will never allow us to be completely calm. We can have an excellent and secure process for making changes to the repository, follow recommendations, change SSH keys regularly, and so on. But still we can fall victim to a ransomware attack just like every third company. It is necessary here not only to take care of security, but also to prepare a plan for what we can do and what we should do when an attack occurs. The obvious answer is to do a proper, regular backup of your repositories and have a way to easily restore them if needed. So, answer yourself. Are you and your company prepared for this? So that was ransomware attacks on Git repositories. If you want to learn more about the risks awaiting your Git repositories, check out this video and this video. If you enjoyed this one, leave a like, subscribe to this channel and visit our sites zopro.com and gitprotect.io. See you in the next video. Goodbye.